Alrighty. Well, good morning, everybody. Um, it's funny. There's something that I have learned in life, and especially in the last few years since the whole scamdemic thing. And I kind of knew it before too, but the scamdemic solidified it for me because I saw other people going through what I had been going through for quite some time. And what I learned is, um, I'm just putting the pieces together. But what I learned is that in this world, we have all these systems. And we're told these systems are supposed to serve us. Like we're told the medical system, the healthcare system, supposed to serve us. The police are supposed to serve us. The courts are supposed to serve us, and so on. The police are supposed to protect us. The courts are supposed to see that we get justice. Um, yeah, and hold us to account sometimes if we do wrong, but also to see that we get justice, and even in holding us to account, to do so in a fair and unbiased way. The police are to protect us. The healthcare system is to care for our physical well-being, and so on. Churches are to care for our spiritual well-being, so the religious system, you could say. But what I've noticed about all these systems is that unless you are willing to pledge your undying allegiance to them and to be unconditionally obedient to them and to substitute their judgment for your own in all matters and to substitute even their conscience for your own in all matters. Never follow your conscience unless it's in accord with what the system is telling you. Unless you're willing to be like that, and basically make this system your God, then you will be blacklisted from the system. You won't be able to call the police to protect you if you need protection. You say if somebody's breaking into your house at 2 a.m, which actually happened to me one time, if you can't call the police to protect you. And if you protect yourself, then the police will come and they'll arrest you for having done so. And the courts will send you to prison for having done so. No, I was lucky. The guy that tried to break into my house eventually gave up and went away. I was on the other side of the door in a dark room with a huge knife, with like a butcher knife in my hand, just waiting for him to come through the door. Calling the police wasn't an option for me because I'm not unconditionally loyal and obedient to the police. And therefore I've been blacklisted and I can't call the police for help. The only time the police interact with me is if they're hoping to lock me up. That's the only time. They will not help me. And so I don't even think of calling them. It's not an option. But the healthcare system is the same. All these systems are the same. See, I can't go to a hospital either because I refuse to obey COVID mandates. I do this because I follow my conscience, you see. And in these matters, I follow my conscience. And oftentimes, my conscience is at odds with the system. And I'm not willing to make the system my God. I'm willing to follow the system only to a degree. Because, look, God does tell us to follow the system. He tells us to be obedient to the system. But he doesn't tell us to follow the system and be obedient to it without question. He doesn't tell us to follow the system and be obedient to it and assist it to go against him, basically, and so on. He doesn't tell us to do that. Now, in certain things, God and the system are in agreement. For example, The Ten Commandments say, thou shalt not kill. Well, the system says the same thing, although the system does kill. It kills on a regular basis. So the system reserves the right to kill unto itself and unto its appointed people it delegates to do the job of killing. The system reserves that unto it. So the system isn't completely against killing. The system will kill. But anyway, we're still in the sense of committing cold-blooded murder or whatever. Killing your wife because you want her out of the way so you can be with your girlfriend or something like that. Or killing some little kid, molesting some little kid and then killing that child because you don't want them to tell on you, or, killing somebody because you're mad at them because they said something you didn't like or did something you didn't like or whatever. God and the law are at least in accord. God and the system, the earthly system, are at least in accord with each other in that regard. But then, of course, the earthly system, being a Luciferian system, tends to go off the rails, basically. So the system actually does do a lot of killing. Yeah, basically it's like this. In this world, we have this Luciferian system. All the earth systems are Luciferian. God kind of tempers that a bit and holds the Luciferian aspect of it back to a degree. In fact, we're told during the Great Tribulation, God is going to withdraw. And then the Luciferian system is going to come at the people of the earth with its full fury. There's going to be nothing holding it back. And I can tell you, I've seen firsthand how vicious police officers can be. If they don't like you, they can be vicious. And that's with God holding them back. So imagine how worse it's going to be, how much worse it's going to be when God withdraws, which he is going to do at some point. He's going to withdraw and then he's going to return with a vengeance, but he's going to withdraw first. And then we're going to get a full taste of Luciferian wrath, basically. We're going to get a full taste of it then. And I mean, we're going to see people in authority do things that a lot of people, even now with everything that's happened, refuse to believe that the authorities are capable of. Because they're still convinced that the authorities are good. The authorities aren't good. The authorities are necessary. Because we're living in a fallen world, then we have to have a system in place, because of that. And we have to have certain authority figures because of that. But these people are not good, and these systems are not good. They're just basically all that we have for the time being. But they're severely flawed and they're severely corrupted. Anyway, bottom line is, and many people have found this out through the whole scamdemic, if you are not unconditionally obedient to the system, whichever system you're dealing with, all these governmental systems and so on, if you're not unconditionally obedient to them, to those things, and you're not, basically, if you're not willing to make the system your God and to worship it, then at some point you're going to find yourself in conflict with it. And when you find yourself in conflict with it, you're going to be blacklisted by it. And then you'll no longer be allowed to call the police for protection. You'll no longer be allowed to go to the doctor when you're sick, and so on. And I know this because I've experienced it. I'm required to basically be unconditionally obedient. and to worship the system as if it's a god. And in a way, the system is a god. It's a false god, but it's a god just the same. And to ignore my own conscience and only do what the system tells me to do, and always be in agreement with the system, and to join in with the system in persecuting those who go against it in any way. Unless I'm prepared to do that, then I'm going to remain on the outs with the system. I want to make myself perfectly clear. Even though I pay a high price for being on the outs with the system, I intend to continue to be on the outs with the system. The system is not my God. Yahweh in heaven is my God. And as we get closer and closer to the end of things, as this system comes to an end, which it is doing now, we're seeing it collapsing around us. The financial system especially is only just propped up at this point. The financial system is like your old Uncle Ed, who smoked cigarettes and, and drank whiskey and whored around for 40 years. And now he's laying on a bed in the hospital with hoses coming out of him and everything. He's got a machine to breathe for him. And he's got a machine to vacuum away his piss and his shit when that happens. And he's got a machine to keep his heart going, to shock his heart every so often and keep it going and so on. And basically, it's just all these artificial things that are keeping the meat from rotting. Well, that's what we've got right now with the financial system. It's on life support. It's being artificially propped up. And we're now seeing those systems start to break down and fail. We're seeing the shit and piss vacuum struggling to keep up. We're seeing the breathing machine struggling to keep up and so on, And so that's why we're having runaway inflation. That's why we're having, and that's the reason for the high prices and we can't afford to buy things anymore. That's the reason why, you see all kinds of memes on Facebook with chickens wearing gold necklaces and stuff, because the price of eggs has gone through the roof and whatnot, I mean, this is the reason anyway. Did you see all these jokes about that? Because, when people are stressed out, they joke about things. It's a way of coping. And so the things that we joke about are often the things that we're the most worried about. The things that are causing us the most discomfort, the most pain. That's why they say a lot of the time comedians, the funniest comedians are the ones that have had the most tragic lives. Robin Williams was hilarious. But if you look at his life, he had a pretty tough life, I mean, life wasn't easy for Robin Williams. He was actually kind of a sad person. But he was hilarious. But, it came from pain, really, And that's why we're seeing all these jokes now about the economy and how stupid things are, Anyway, the system is breaking down. It started with the church system as people became more materialistic and, decided that they didn't really need God. The God was I've heard God described as the sky genie and stuff like that, Yahweh, that's the way they talk about him. So the church system started to break down. And then, of course, the church system was corrupt. And a lot of the corruption came out. A lot of this stuff like with priests doing things they shouldn't be doing. And then stuff came out about Protestant ministers also doing similar things to what the priests had been doing and so on. And see the system and elders and organizations like the Jehovah's Witnesses, it came out, a lot of corruption about them came out. And so that accelerated the breaking down of the church system. Now, with the advent of cell phones and everything, everybody's got a camera. And so all the corruption with the police is coming out now, law enforcement, because it's being filmed, it's being documented. And, see, with that too, now I was aware of that 40 years ago, and I wasn't believed. The only people that believed me were others that had experienced similar things to what I had experienced. But of course, back then, if you had had negative contact with the police, then you had no credibility. If you admitted that you had negative contact with the police, people would say, well, you're a bad guy then. Only bad guys have negative contact with the police. So why should I believe you? You're probably a liar. But now it's being documented. And what's happening now is the police are losing face. They're no longer held in the same regard they once were, you see. The court systems, likewise, a lot of corruption and stuff has come out about the court system. And now the court system is breaking down. And in the end, all these systems are breaking down. All these Luciferian systems are breaking down. And they're fighting hard to maintain, because a system develops a life of its own, and anything with a life will try to stay alive. You corner a sewer rat. I had some friends when I was in high school who made that mistake. They were out like young guys do, just prowling around. I was working in a factory when this happened, so I wasn't with them, but they were out prowling around in my hometown, and they saw this big sewer rat running in the gutter. And these idiots thought, wouldn't it be fun to torment a sewer rat? Yeah. Stupid, cruel, and everything else. If I had been there, I'd have said, no, that's a bad idea for multiple reasons. It's cruel, and it's stupid. Let's not do that. But of course, that's why I was kind of the odd man out in the group, usually, because I was like that. And it's probably just as well that I was working in the factory as opposed to being out wandering the streets with those guys. But anyway, we're put where we need to be sometimes. God has a way of knowing where we need to be, and He'll put us there. And we don't always like it, but in the end, it often works in our best interest if we just allow God to put us where He wants to put us. Anyway, bottom line is, I've been put in lots of places I didn't want to be, but I can look back on it now and say, well, that all served some purpose. It was a good thing I was there at that time, even though it wasn't nice and even though I didn't want to be there. But anyway, back to my story. These guys, they followed the sewer rat. They managed to pick up some big sticks, branches and stuff, and they followed the sewer rat. And they cornered it. Now, the sewer rat ran away from them. The sewer rat wanted no part of them. Because, again, self-preservation. The sewer rat knew these guys were up to no good. These guys mean me harm. I need to get away from these guys. See, sewer rat wasn't stupid. And the sewer rat had an instinct of self-preservation. The sewer rat basically said, I don't want to die tonight. So I'm going to get away from these guys who mean me harm. So it ran away from them. Well, they pursued it. And damned if they didn't catch it. They cornered it. They got it right into a place where the only way out was to go through them. And then they started poking at it with the sticks. And of course, it started to scream bloody murder. And I heard the story afterwards. They were talking about the noises that came out of that thing, and I guess it was pretty terrifying. But when screaming didn't stop them, it decided it was going to come through them. It had nothing to lose. They probably would have killed it had it not done this. And so it came at them, and it scared the hell out of them, because it came at them with a vengeance. you know. But see, that's the instinct of self-preservation. Every living thing wants to go on living, unless there's something wrong with it, unless there's something maybe, there are people who don't want to go on living, but those people are generally suffering from terrible trauma, and they're generally, clinically depressed or something like that. There's something going on in the brain where things just aren't working the way they should. But generally, every living thing wants to survive. And because a system takes on a life of its own, a system will fight tooth and nail to survive. And that's why we're seeing everything being artificially propped up. That's why we're seeing massive censorship. Because one of the things that's killing the system is information coming out to the average person. There are a lot of people who pretty much worship the police and considered the police superheroes who could do no wrong, who now have a different opinion because they've seen the footage. They've seen the police actually doing cruel things and unnecessarily cruel things and abusing people and lying and planting evidence and all the rest of it. So now they can't deny that does happen, and so it's changed their outlook. And the same is true for the medical profession, for the courts, and so on. All these systems, and the financial system has let the people down in a big way. The financial system promised that if you work hard and do all the right things, that you can have security. You work hard, do all the right things, you will have security. That's what the financial system told us. How many of us did that and are now homeless, or are on the verge of homelessness, or, on the verge of bankruptcy, or whatever? I mean, see, the system failed us. And there's more and more of us every day. And the thing is, those of us who have been failed by the system are not in the minority anymore. And so it used to be if you were failed by the system, you were told, well, you did wrong. You must have done something wrong because the system doesn't fail. If you use the system properly, it will use you properly. And you won't end up in that situation. You see, only those who deserve to be in that situation find themselves in that situation. That was the attitude when I was young, when I was a young man in the 1980s. That was the attitude. But what's happened now is there's more and more people being failed by the system. And they're looking and saying, I did everything right. Why is this happening? The system lied to me. You see. And so that's escalating the failure of the system even more. So what we're seeing is a total breakdown of all these earthly systems, all these Luciferian systems. And my own theory on this, and it's only my theory, and I am not a Bible scholar, and I'm not an expert on these things. I want to make that perfectly clear. Take what I say and put whatever value on it you want to put on it. If you think it's complete bullshit, well, you might be right. It might be complete bullshit. So I'll acknowledge that right now. But it is my sincere opinion that I'm offering here, for whatever that's worth. My opinion is that the coming of Jesus is soon. That the doing away with these Luciferian systems is soon. And at the very least, the end of the age is here. The end of what's called the church age, or the age of grace. It's here. Now maybe we'll go into another age, I don't know. And Jesus won't come back right away. Definitely, we're a society in decline, similar to what happened to the Roman Empire. Now, as we know, life went on after the Roman Empire dissolved. So other empires have risen and fallen since. So, I mean, it may be that that's what this is. But my belief is, my sincere belief is, that the time talked about in the Bible, the war of Armageddon and the return of Jesus Christ is very close. I believe we're in what Jesus referred to as the season, because he said you won't know the exact day or hour, but you'll know the season. So look for the signs and you'll know the season. Well, I'm seeing what I'm interpreting as the signs, and I'm thinking we're in the season. And I'm thinking all these systems have to break down in order for the next stage to come, for the next part of the plan to come. And that's the reason that all the corruption is coming out, and that people are becoming disillusioned, and that people are becoming rebellious, and so on, is because they're seeing the breakdown of all the earthly systems. And these are things that a lot of people did worship as gods. See, I fell out with them early because I wouldn't worship them as gods. And so I was blacklisted and targeted by the police, for example. Not because I was going around thieving and raping and murdering and molesting and I don't know, and beating people up for no reason and all the rest of it. That's not why. I wasn't doing any of that. It was because I was not unconditionally obedient, and I didn't unconditionally believe in the police or in any of the systems. And I also didn't hero worship the police.